Hey YouTube, short note on what you're about to see. For about 15 years, I had a channel called Sargevining. The Google account associated with that was hacked. They gained access to the YouTube channel, and YouTube, as a result, deleted the channel. Okay, and we are rebuilding the Sargevining channel as the Bannerman's Camp channel that you're seeing now. I have a number of videos on file that I will be re-uploading, but I'm also finding out in the process that there are a lot of videos I no longer have. And this video will reference some of those videos that I no longer have. I do apologize for that. I'm going to do my best to reshoot those videos and add them to the content as it comes out. For some of you, this is new content. From some of you, this is going to be, oh, I remember that. Okay, let's go talk about a stovetop oven. And the reason why I'm posting this is I'm going to be using this in the field next week for a video that will be new content. Let's go look at an old video. Hey YouTube. Hey, this is a quick video in response to a question that I got from viewer Tasman8271. This is the kind of thing that I love. As a living historian, I love, and we'll get into that here in a minute. Tasman, his first question to me was whether or not he had missed the maker of the stove that I showed, the little stovetop stove, is this one right here that I'm going to be using on the top of the shepherd stove. He was watching the video on the shepherd stove, and he went back and watched the video where I made cornbread muffins with this little puppy here. And he wanted to know, did he miss me mentioning the maker of the stove? And I told him, I responded and said, no, I didn't. There's not a maker's mark anywhere on this. And then he asked if I could post pictures, close-up pictures of the stove, because it's a good, it's a nifty little piece. And YouTube won't let me post pictures, replies to comments. So I thought I'd do this quick video to show some close-ups here and give kind of a little dissertation, a little bit of discussion on one of the reasons why I do this stuff and what I get out of it. Okay, I get a whole lot more than the 15 cents or whatever it is that YouTube sends me every time somebody watches the video. It's not even that much. I love it when somebody asks me a question. If you see anything on any of my videos that causes you to ask a question, please do. As a living historian, okay, that's where I get my jollies. Okay, when somebody asks me a question, I know that I have made that little educational connection. Okay, number one, I've got a curious person who wants to know more, and number two, he's informed. He's asking a question because he is informed. I may or may not be the person who informed him. So please ask me these questions. We had a saying in the Army, there's no such thing as a stupid question, and the question you ask might be the one that the guy who's afraid to ask a question might ask. So ask a question. Okay. As far as the stove itself, let me open this up and take my bacon implements out of it. Make it a little bit easier to fling around. We'll get some close-ups here in a minute. First, let me say that number one, nobody should take my showing of this stove anywhere on any of my videos as being proof that this is from the 1920s and the 1930s. Okay, there's not a maker's mark on it. That means I have absolutely no way to get on a path to research this thing. I can't research the vintage because I don't know the vendor. I don't know when and where it was sold. I got this, number one, because I like to bake in the field. Okay, I like to be the guy who brings the muffins. Makes me a popular guy around the campfire. This looks the part. Okay, it looks like something made in the early 20th century. Truth of the matter is, it could have been made as late as the 1950s or the 1960s. Now, I'll take as an example this little stove here that I showed in my video on the haversack challenge, where James Bender challenged me to a haversack, and I showed a loadout from the 1950s and the 1960s. If you haven't seen that, I'll link to it at the end of this video. But this has the same patina as the oven. Okay, you see how close those two items are? Well, I know for a fact that this was made in the 1950s. Okay, because it was a premium for a television show that I used to watch when I was but a little shaver, a teeny tiny little puppy. Okay, but you know, these came as bright, shiny tinned stoves, but the heat transformed the covering, okay, the tinning, into this kind of brownish hue here. Well, that's the same thing we find on this stove. So we know at the very least that this is a light gauge metal stove that was tinned when it was new. Okay, well, that puts it in the realm of a good deal of metal objects made during the early 20th century. This very well could be from the 1920s and 1930s. Okay, but having said that, this is bought for living history purposes. Okay, this is bought so that when I whoop it out, the stove, I'm talking about the stove, when I whoop it out and start to make muffins, it doesn't, bust anybody's buzz. Okay, it still looks like the 1930s. Okay, and I will still make the muffins, and after I make the muffins and they taste my muffins, they won't care what it looks like. Okay, the reason why I got it was because of the thermometer. Okay, and that's because I'm a late 20th century, early 21st century baker, and I can't bake as well as I want to without a thermometer, okay? Without it telling me that the oven's at 350 degrees and I can put stuff in it. I can start baking, okay? Bakers of the time, this makes it a little bit easier on me. Bakers of the time would have to remove and look and poke it with a stick to see if it was done all the way through. Having a thermometer on a baker like this makes that chore a little bit easier. You don't have to open it up and lose heat quite so much. Okay, so I'm going to move this over here. I cleaned up a special spot so we could take a look at this, and we can get close-ups, and the close-ups that Tasman wanted, and maybe you might find a little bit. Again, you might be able to find something like this. And if you are able to find something that looks like this and you are able to get a date or a manufacturer on that, please let me know. I really do want to know more about this. Okay, and I'm hoping you do too, and that's why you're watching the video. Okay, let's get a close-up of this. Okay, here we go. All right, you've seen the thermometer on here. Let me get it right close up and use the product showcase feature on my camera here so that you can get a close-up of that. You can see it's graduated. Let me get my glasses. It's graduated in increments 200, 300, 400, and 500 degrees, and it gives you a range here that shows you about where you should be baking things like custards, breads, cakes, biscuits, that kind of thing. Okay, so it's not precise, and to give you an idea that when it's way over here, you can start baking bread. Okay, so there's that. And you may also notice that here on the top there's a little hole. Get that up here. You can see that hole right there, right? Yeah, there it is. Okay, that's a pretty smart thing for the designer of this to do, because sometimes in your baking you're going to build up a lot of moisture. A regular oven's got a lot of room building up the moisture, a little bit of steam. It's not gonna matter. It's going to dissipate. But in a small contained area like this, particularly if you've got a lot of liquid in your mixture, it might make enough steam to pop this right off. Okay, so we got a little relief valve here. All right, there we go. Let's see that. Now the other thing is, this has got a folded steel end. Most baking pans of the period look like that. Okay, made with a flat sheet of steel and then folded. Okay, that's what I do for a living. Is I do drawings of steel and fold it. Now, the secret to baking is that you have to have the temperature of the air built up inside your vessel. It's got to completely surround whatever it is you're baking. Okay, that's why you put your pizza on the middle rack of the oven. Okay, well, they achieve that here by giving this little spacer. Okay, can you see that? Now it's got a raised lip all the way around it, so that when you set it inside the pan, and it's cut at 45 degrees on all the corners, well, that means the heat can get down in there, particularly if this is setting on top of coals. If your pan is sitting on coals, the heat that is being generated is being transferred into the steel of this and generated on the inside. It's going to collect up underneath this little pan and come out these little 45-degree holes, which should mean that the bottom of what it is you're baking is going to get well cooked, and everything else around it is going to be cooked as well at about the same temperature. It's not exactly the same temperature all the way through. I'm kind of rambling. But like I said, the method of construction and the materials of this thing were used from the late 19th until the very late 20th century. Stuff like this was on store shelves when I was a child. Okay, now one of the things I try to get across in here about the history of camping gear, as well as helping you choose what type of thing to get for your living history impression from the 1920s and your living history traditional camping impression, is to know how things were manufactured and marketed in this country during the first half of the 20th century. Another viewer asked me if I would go through the contents of this shelf the same way I went through my bookshelf. I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to present that, but I'm going to show that there are two things here. Okay, one is a box I made. I make these myself of Quaker oats. Okay, this is a national brand, marketed nationally. Okay, you could go to any city in the country, walk into a store, and there would be Quaker oats. Okay, but next to it would be an oat brand, if it was in the right area, the right agricultural area where oats were grown, there would be a local brand of oats, similar to this box of pancake flour. Okay. Now, while there would have been a national brand of pancake flour, this is something local to Campbell, Nebraska. Okay. You wouldn't find this in stores in New Hampshire or California, but they'd be all over Nebraska. Okay. So that might be one of the reasons why we don't see a maker's mark on this, because it's made locally, marketed locally, and the manufacturer sees no need really to advertise himself. You understand what I'm saying? Another way of looking at it is the tent ring that I found that came with the shepherd stove. This thing right here. This was made by the Goldberg Brothers Company of Denver, Colorado. Okay, I didn't realize it at the time, or I didn't make the connection at the time. I belong to a Facebook group called Goldberg Brothers Stoves. Goldberg Brothers made a camping stove, like a Coleman stove of today. Okay, and they made their own stoves and they branded their own stoves, but they actually made more money branding those stoves to other vendors. Okay, there might be a sporting goods store in across the state line. Okay, and they want to market their own goods, but they don't make camping stoves. Well, they would put their logo.
Power off.
The power's going off on my speaker. I'm glad they told you. Where were we? Goldberg. Okay. So Goldberg would put the brand of that store on their stove. Okay. But it was still very regional. Okay. They weren't advertising themselves. They were just selling stoves. Okay. So, if the Hipsy Pipsy sporting goods store in Dubuque, Iowa wants to sell some stoves, well, they go to Goldberg's and they say, give me 100 stoves marked Hipsy Pipsy instead of Goldberg. And Goldberg would say, yeah, no problem. We'll send you an invoice. Okay, so items like this, without maker's marks, difficult to research, but easy to identify as far as vintage within about a 50-year window. And fortunately, the way we define our traditional camping stuff is, we tell people that if you want to do a traditional camp out, if you want to attend one of the events that one of our members might do, pick a 10-year time period, okay, in which to gather your gear and your clothing and stuff like that. So you might do 1920 to 1930 or 1930 to 1940. A stove like this, even though it was manufactured into the 50s, maybe, we don't know, would fit in any of those 10-year increments that you choose to do from 1890 to 1950. Okay? That's why I bought this stove. I did not buy it as a collector's item. I bought it as a living history item, both to have something to use in a living history context, but also to get people to ask questions so that I can help them learn more and set you on a path to do your own research. And that's the last thing I want to say about this. Please do not let me be your sole source of research. One of the 10 commandments of living history is thou shalt read paper books. Okay, let this be a jumping off point for your own research. Prove me wrong. Let me know. I want to know if I've told you something wrong. Okay? Please ask questions. Anybody who wants to see something about something I've talked about. Please don't take the attitude, well, he's talked about that, he doesn't want to talk about it anymore. Okay, you might be able to tell I like talking about this crap. So ask away, ask away. If you see I want to know more, I want to see more, please put it in the comments, and I will try to oblige. Alrighty, we'll see you down the trail.